The year is 1308 and the peninsula of Anatolia and the countrysides of Thrace had been recently ravaged by the forces of the Catalan Company. Seeing their neighbors in a weakened state and on the brink of civil war, the Ottoman Beylik plans on expanding in all directions. This is Ottoman Wars. After the Catalan withdrawal from Anatolia and the Balkans, the geopolitical situation of the region surrounding the Ottomans had changed vastly. The Ottoman Beylik, once seen as a small and weaker of the Turkic Beyliks in Anatolia, had came out of the Catalan invasion unscarred and stronger than ever. The wars with the Catalan Company had weakened the Byzantine Empire and the various Turkic Beyliks in western Anatolia, which had seen their lands ransacked and their cities massacred by the recent war. Multiple Turkic and Byzantine armies had been destroyed by the Catalans, which had shifted the balance of power in favor of the Ottomans. Anarchy had risen in Anatolia, while the decline of the Byzantine Empire only accelerated. With the Balkans ravaged, the Byzantines were also losing their grip on their last holdings in Anatolia. Ottoman raids into Bithynia became more and more fierce, devastating the countryside and weakening the empire's presence in the region. Byzantine presence in western Anatolia was disintegrating as well, which saw the Byzantine city of Epirus being conquered by the Ottoman Beylik in 1308. During the same year, an Ottoman raiding party had successfully captured the Byzantine islands of İmralı, thus marking it as the foundation date of the Ottoman Navy, a navy that would be active for the next 600 years. By 1310, the Beylik of Aydın would also capture Smyrna, and in 1313, a Turkic Beylik called the Sarahanids would capture Manisa and other Byzantine holdings in the region. With the exception of Philadelphia, the Byzantines had lost control of most of their possessions in western Anatolia within a short period of time. The tides were turning against the once powerful Byzantine Empire. During the 1310s, the aging Osman Gazi, who was at this time in his 50s, gave most of the responsibilities of the state to his two sons, Orhan Gazi and Alaaddin Pasha. Orhan Gazi would be in charge of the Ottoman military, while his stepbrother Alaaddin Pasha would be in charge of the handling of the daily bureaucratic tasks of state. With the House of Osman united, the Ottomans had secured their stability for the upcoming generation. However, the same could not be said with the Byzantine Palaiologos Dynasty. Let's briefly take a look at the foundation of this royal family. Back in 1261, the founder of the Palaiologos Dynasty, Michael VIII, retook Constantinople from the Latin Empire, thus reestablishing Byzantine control over the grand city. During the aftermath of the Greek conquest, Michael VIII would take sole control of the Byzantine state after blinding the 8-year-old co-emperor John IV, who was the son of the previous Nicaean emperor Theodore II. John IV was only 7 when he inherited the Nicaean throne from his father, so lacking influence to run the state by himself, he promoted an influential Byzantine official, Michael, to co-rule with him in 1259. Although only being a co-emperor, Michael VIII in the coming months became the de facto senior leader of the Byzantine Empire, overshadowing the rule of the 7-year-old John. After capturing Constantinople, Michael VIII did not need John IV anymore to proclaim his legitimacy, so he blinded John and sent him into exile, in which the former boy emperor became a monk at a local Christian monastery. Michael VIII would rule over a united Byzantine Empire for the next 21 years before dying in 1282. His successful reign would see a considerable recovery of Byzantine power, including the enlargement of the Byzantine army and navy and the reconstruction of the city of Constantinople after a half-century of Latin rule. However, it was also during Michael VIII's reign which saw the focus of the Byzantine military shift towards the Balkans against the Bulgarians, thus leaving the Anatolian frontier drastically weak against Turkish incursions. After Michael VIII's death, his son, Andronikos II, ascended to the Byzantine throne. The first 30 years of Andronikos II's reign saw the Byzantines slowly lose their possessions in Asia Minor due to a series of Byzantine disasters in the region. Andronikos II would elevate his eldest son, Michael IX, as co-emperor in 1294 during these bleak years as a way to manage his realm more effectively. Michael IX also had two sons named Andronicus and Manuel, and the pair were groomed to be the future emperors of the empire. The past, the present, and the future seemed to be secured for the time being, but disaster struck in 1320 for the Palaiologos Dynasty. A freak accident between the two young brothers regarding a secret mistress resulted in the death of the young Manuel by the hands of Andronicus. As things couldn't get worse, by the end of the year, the heartbroken Michael IX died while grieving for his dead son. Emperor Andronicus II, being shocked at the deaths of his son and grandson and the dissolute behavior of the young Andronicus, disowned and disinherited him from the line of succession. Within a couple of months, the present and the future of the Byzantine Empire were dead. The younger Andronicus, learning about his disinheritance, fled to Thrace and with the help of a younger generation of Byzantine aristocrats proclaimed himself as emperor of the Byzantine Empire, thus hailing himself as Andronicus III. By this time period, the Byzantine aristocracy was split into two factions. One faction whose members were predominantly older and who supported the legitimacy of Andronicus II on the Byzantine throne, while the other faction, predominantly being made out of young aristocrats, believed that Andronicus II was pushing the empire in a state of doom due to his mismanagement of the Turkish problem in Asia Minor. Most of these young aristocrats had been born during the 1280s and 1290s, the same time period when Asia Minor was starting to be overrun by the Turks, so they blamed Andronicus II for these Byzantine failures. They believed that the younger Andronicus III would be a fighting emperor unlike his older grandfather, so they pledged their support to the 23-year-old boy emperor. These young generation of Byzantine aristocrats were led by a man named John Kantakouzenos, who was a second cousin to Andronicus III. The older Emperor Andronicus II, seeing that his grandson had many supporters, decided to acknowledge Andronicus III's claim on the Byzantine throne and made him co-emperor in 1321. In addition, the Byzantine districts of Thrace and Macedonia were to be given to Andronicus III to rule, while Andronicus II would rule the rest of the empire, including the city of Constantinople. It seemed like an outright civil war was averted, but this so-called peace agreement was only a ceasefire in disguise. While the Byzantines were distracted with their domestic problems, the Ottoman Beylik unleashed their own invasion into Byzantine Bithynia. The city of Bursa was once again besieged by the Ottomans in 1320, while a young charismatic Orhan Gazi led the Ottoman army through the countryside, conquering the port city of Mundana by 1321. The Ottoman Beylik had seized their first port city in their history. Mundana's strategic location enabled the Ottomans for the first time to control the movement of ships in the Sea of Marmara, thus in turn cutting the Byzantine Empire's connection to Bursa. In addition, the Ottomans would capture the towns of Akyazı in 1323, Karamusel in 1324, and Bürü, Kandırı, and Orhaneli in 1325. Back in Europe, the Byzantine ceasefire was already falling apart as the influential Byzantine aristocrat named Serganis switched sides to the elder emperor in order to hold the title Magnus Dux, which was bribed to him by Andronikos II. This event caused the civil war to erupt again by 1321. However, almost immediately the two sides were stuck in a stalemate, so after fighting for a couple months, the two sides agreed on another peace agreement. Serganis, losing favor with Andronikos II's court, was swiftly sentenced to life imprisonment. Also, as a token of goodwill, Andronikos III was formally crowned as the co-emperor by his grandfather, thus legitimizing the young emperor's rule. Back in Asia Minor, Bursa was still being besieged by the Ottomans. The Ottomans lacked the tools and technology to conduct a proper full-on attack on Bursa's walls, so they opted to blockade the city instead. The city of Bursa was the first properly massive city that the Ottomans tried to capture in their history. At this point in history, the Ottoman Beylik was only made out of a few villages, forts, small castles, and a couple of towns. The conquest of the city of Bursa would double the wealth and population of the Ottomans overnight, but for now, the Ottomans would be patient in their blockade of the city. The 10,000-strong Ottoman army would blockade the city for the next 6 whole years until Bursa's garrison force surrendered the city after seeing no Byzantine reinforcements were coming to their aid. However, Osman Gazi would never see the conquest of the city, as in 1326 he would die from gout. The Turkic warlord who had fought the Byzantines for more than 40 years and won countless victories for his beylik only left a horse, a couple of oxen, and a few flock of sheep under his name. Unlike other Turkic warlords who hoarded their wealth, Osman Gazi spent all of his wealth on his subjects, making him very popular with the Muslim and Christian populations alike. His immense popularity with Christians was so great that by the end of his reign, some Byzantine villages and towns started defecting to the Ottoman Beylik due to the high taxes that they were being levied upon while under the Byzantines. In the upcoming centuries, Osman Gazi would be regarded as the ideal sultan, in which all future Ottoman sultans tried to replicate his reputation as a brave and just leader. Future Ottoman sultans during their enthronement ceremony would lift up the sword of Osman to proclaim their reign to be noble and just, like the reign of Osman Gazi. Osman Gazi had founded an imperial dynasty that will rule for more than 600 years. The impact of Osman's conquest cannot be understated when discussing world history, as he laid the foundation of an empire that was born in the age of conducting war on horseback and would die in the age of airplanes, tanks, and poison gas. After Osman Gazi's death, Orhan Gazi would ascend to the Ottoman throne and complete his father's conquest of Bursa. After the siege, Osman Gazi would be buried in Bursa, and soon after, Orhan would officially move the Ottoman court into the city. Bursa, under Orhan Gazi, would become the new administrative and economic center for the Ottoman Beylik, which would see the city flourish under Ottoman rule. The loss of the city came as a huge morale hit for the Byzantines, who were still fighting amongst each other. Back in the Byzantine Empire, the two emperors, still despising each other, started talks with foreign powers in order to dethrone one another. The elder Emperor Andronikos II started talks with Stephanouros III, the King of Serbia, while the young Emperor Andronikos III started talks with Tsar Michael Shishman III of Bulgaria. The Treaty of Chernomyn was signed between Andronikos III and Michael Shishman III in secret during the spring of 1327. The treaty stated that Bulgaria would help install Andronikos III to the Byzantine throne as its sole ruler, in return that Andronikos III would help Bulgaria fight a war against Serbia. In addition to helping one another, Andronikos III was obliged to cede several border towns to Bulgaria and pay a large amount of money as a way to cement this treaty. The uneasy peace between Andronikos II and Andronikos III broke apart in the fall of 1327, which saw the start of the third and final phase of the Byzantine Civil War. Andronikos III would swiftly capture the region of Macedonia and the major Byzantine city of Thessalonica by the start of 1328. These fast victories by Andronikos III cut off Serbian assistance to Constantinople, which was a huge hit for Andronikos II. During the spring of 1328, Andronikos III marched on Constantinople and captured the city swiftly, as by this time Andronikos II had lost all of his support from his army and aristocracy. Andronikos II was stripped from his power and sent to exile to a monastery, where he would die in 1332 at the age of 72. Meanwhile, his grandson Andronikos II was hailed as the sole Byzantine emperor in Constantinople. The Byzantine Civil War of 1321 to 1328 was a devastating civil war for the Byzantines, and it could be seen as the major reason why the Byzantine state fell to the Ottomans in the preceding century. Constant levying of troops from the peasantry from both sides reduced agriculture production and trade, in which devastated the Byzantine Empire's economy, treasury, and manpower. Serbia, Bulgaria, and the Ottomans used the civil war to make gains at the expense of the Byzantines, which weakened their empire even further. The Byzantines were quickly losing their control over their Anatolian and even their Balkan holdings. Nevertheless, the Byzantine realm was now united under Andronikos III, and now the young emperor seeks to gain glory by capturing the former imperial lands in Asia Minor from the Ottomans. The war between these two sides would reach its climax in the upcoming years as both sides fought tooth and nail for the wealthy urban region of Bithynia. Thank you for watching this edition of Ottoman Wars, and if you enjoyed the video and want the channel to grow, why not drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. This has been Ege from the Ottoman History Hub, signing out.